I should have known better the moment I got the invitation. It arrived in a gold-trimmed envelope with my name printed in blood-red ink, Natalie Sinclair. You are cordially invited to the Carter family Christmas Eve gala. That was already strange. I hadn't spoken to the Carters in over a year. Not since I broke off my engagement with their golden boy, Caleb. He cheated. Not once. Not twice. But for an entire year. And with someone I considered a sister, my best friend since childhood, Mia. Still, there I was. Standing in front of their sprawling estate in Manhattan, the snow crunching beneath my heels like broken promises. I didn't come to forgive or to play nice. I came for closure. At least, that's what I told myself. The foyer was decked in crystal garlands and flickering candles. The air smelled like pine, roasted lamb, and artificial civility. Rich laughter echoed through the halls, but when I walked in, it was as if the room froze. People turned. Eyes widened. Whispers spread like wildfire, and then, she appeared, Mia, draped in a crimson gown too bold for the occasion. Arm in arm with Caleb, looking like they walked straight out of a magazine spread titled Betrayal, the Power Couple Edition. She spotted me, smiled, that kind of smile only women like her could wear, the kind that says I won, and you're about to lose again, but I didn't flinch. I smiled right back, let the games begin. The grand dining room of the Carter estate was a cathedral of elegance, polished oak floors, floor-length windows, a 16-foot chandelier dripping with crystal like frozen tears. Long tables groaned under the weight of luxury, honey-glazed ham, truffle-stuffed duck, golden potatoes sculpted like art. Everything screamed wealth, control, perfection, and I was the crack in the porcelain. Every seat had a name card, and mine was placed, surprise, directly across from Caleb and Mia. The message was clear: look at what you lost. But they hadn't counted on me not blinking. The table was filled with New York's elite, politicians, media executives, the kind of people who feed on gossip like wolves on fresh kill. I recognized faces, half of them had posted fake condolences. After my emotional breakdown last year, which, of course, was just a PR-friendly way of saying she went crazy after her fiancé cheated. They didn't know the half of it. Caleb cleared his throat dramatically as dessert was served. A perfectly torched creme brulee. A hush fell. His voice slithered into the silence like a blade. I'd like to propose a toast, he said, standing with his arm around Mia. To love. To second chances. And to truth, the foundation of all real relationships. I knew that was my cue. He was setting the stage, but before we toast, he continued, lifting a wine glass, Mia and I wanted to share something deeply personal. Something we've kept hidden for too long. He glanced at her. She nodded, eyes gleaming. Then he turned to me, it's about Natalie. The room stiffened. Forks froze midair. I didn't move. Caleb reached inside his jacket and pulled out a folder. A manila folder, sealed with a red ribbon, as if this were some grotesque ceremony. He opened it slowly, like it held divine truth. I didn't want to do this, he said. But since she's here, and there have been rumors, I think it's time for full transparency. He pulled out a photograph, grainy, black and white, clearly zoomed in from a distance. It was me, at a hotel bar, sitting across from a man. This was taken 2 months before our breakup, he said, voice calm. Natalie having drinks with an executive from Kairos Media, the very firm that tried to buy out our family business. Gasps. All around me. One woman dropped her spoon. I smiled. Just slightly. Let him finish digging his grave. She leaked insider financial data to their legal team. Emails, account ledgers. I found copies on her old laptop, which, by the way, she forgot to wipe clean when she stormed out. Mia played the role of the betrayed friend perfectly, dabbing the corner of her eye with a cloth napkin like a B-list actress. I tried to tell her to stop, she whispered. But she said Caleb deserved to lose everything. The room was spinning for everyone but me. That was the thing about being publicly crucified, it gave you a high pain tolerance. Caleb set the folder in the center of the table like an exhibit in court. We didn't press charges, he added. We wanted to protect her. But tonight, the truth has to be known. Especially if she's going to walk into our lives again. Someone clapped. I think it was his father. Others looked away, uncomfortable. Unsure. One older woman across the table gave me a long, pitying look. I didn't break. I folded my napkin neatly, set it beside my untouched dessert, and looked Caleb straight in the eye. Are you done? I asked. He blinked, caught off guard by the calm in my voice. No denial? Mia pressed. No defense? You're just going to sit there? I smiled. Oh, I'll speak, I said. But I like to wait until everyone's exposed. Not just me. And just like that, the game shifted. The silence after my words was like a vacuum. Everyone was waiting, forks frozen, mouths half open, anticipation thick as the scent of roasted duck. Caleb and Mia stared at me like I was a cornered animal. But they didn't know I had teeth. And tonight, I was going to bite. Before I left Caleb, I began, standing slowly, voice steady. I didn't just walk away. I made a backup. Of everything. Caleb's smug expression twitched. Just for a second, I reached into my clutch and pulled out a black flash drive, small and unassuming. I held it between two fingers like a holy relic. You were sloppy, Caleb, I said. You thought you covered your tracks. But I'm not the only one who kept receipts. I walked over to the enormous smart TV mounted on the wall, the one the Carters always used for flashy family slideshows. Do you mind? I asked, not waiting for permission. I plugged in the drive, the screen flickered, everyone leaned in.at first, it was just a folder of files. Then I clicked play on a video labeled private_room_27a.mov. The footage was grainy, like security cam footage, because it was. Hotel hallway. Room 27A. The timestamp, 4 months before the breakup. Caleb, stumbling drunk, entered the frame. Mia followed, wearing a barely there dress. She was giggling. He was gripping her hips. The camera didn't catch the full act, but the audio did. God, I can't believe she still doesn't know, Mia whispered, laughing. She's too busy playing the loyal housewife. Caleb slurred laughter. Moaning. The sound of betrayal, loud and clear, gasps exploded around the table. Someone choked on wine. A woman across the room whispered, "Oh my God." But I wasn't done. I clicked to the next file.an audio recording. Clearer. Sharper. She's smarter than you think, a man's voice said. It was Richard, Caleb's father. You need to make her look unstable. Leak something. Push her out before she ruins your reputation. I've got those photos of her brother's DUI. She'll back down if we threaten that, Caleb replied. More gasps. I turned back to the table, voice calm. For those who don't know, my younger brother was arrested during a mental health episode. The Carters threatened to leak it to the press if I ever went public about Caleb's affair. That's why I stayed silent. That's why I disappeared. Not because I was guilty, but because they were willing to destroy my family to protect their image. Mia had gone pale. Caleb's jaw was tight. But the worst was yet to come. Oh, and about that little insider trading accusation? I continued. Kairos Media didn't reach out to me. I reached out to them. Because I had evidence the Carters were embezzling funds through shell charities, and I was ready to blow the whistle. I pulled out my phone to check your inbox. Everyone, I said sweetly. I just BCC'd every guest here a link to the documents, tax records, falsified donation receipts, fake employee reports. All time-stamped. All real. If you're looking for a holiday scandal, this one's gift-wrapped. Phones buzzed. The room erupted. Mia stood suddenly, knocking over her wine. You bitch, she hissed. You planned this. I cut her off with a glance. Of course I did. You exposed me last year. This year, I returned the favor. Caleb lunged toward me, but his mother, always the image-obsessed matriarch, grabbed his arm, whispering harshly, "Sit down. You've done enough." I turned to leave. As I walked past Mia, I leaned close and whispered, "By the way, you're not pregnant. The fake test in your drawer? I replaced it." She gasped audibly, face drained of color. How, next time, I said, stepping past her, "Don't underestimate the quiet girl." And then I was gone. Out the door, coat draped over my shoulder, the winter air biting at my skin, but inside that mansion, chaos bloomed like wildfire, and I didn't look back. I woke up the next morning to a phone vibrating so hard it nearly fell off my nightstand, dozens of messages. Hundreds, actually. 28 missed calls. 142 unread texts, and that wasn't even the worst part. I unlocked my phone and was instantly bombarded with headlines: Manhattan heiress caught in cheating scandal, ex-fiancé drops bombshell at Carter Gala. Insider whistleblower destroys billionaire family's empire, sources say it's just the beginning. Natalie Sinclair, from socialite to silent avenger. The media had sunk its teeth into the story like rabid wolves, and I couldn't blame them. It was a tabloid dream: betrayal, scandal, family wealth, secret recordings, even a fake pregnancy reveal. And Christmas night? I'd basically gift-wrapped it for them. Twitter was on fire. TikTok already had dramatized reenactments. People were choosing sides like it was a national election. I was trending as #SilentSinclair. Was absurd. Surreal. But behind the chaos, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: power, not the kind you inherit or marry into, the kind you take back, piece by piece, after it's been stolen. The Carters, meanwhile, were bleeding. By noon, Kairos Media had issued a statement confirming they were reviewing serious allegations tied to Caleb Carter and Richard Carter regarding financial fraud and unethical business practices. The IRS, now under public pressure, announced a fast-tracked investigation. I even got a call from Cynthia Malone, a bulldog investigative journalist from The Ledger, the same one who once called me emotionally unstable in her column. This time, her tone was different. "Natalie," she said, voice brisk but polite, "I'd like to offer you a platform. Full interview. Your side of the story, unfiltered." I said I'd think about it. Truth was, I didn't need to rush. The world had already flipped. 3 days later, I walked into a high-rise downtown with clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows. Not as a +1. Not as Caleb's shadow. But as a consultant, officially hired by a competing media group to advise on ethical policy reform. Turns out, exposing the truth makes you valuable in the right circles. A week ago, these people would have dismissed me as a disgraced ex-socialite. Now, I was the woman who had destroyed a dynasty without blinking. In the elevator, a young assistant whispered to me, "You're a legend." I smiled. Not yet. But of course, the Carters weren't going down without a fight. On the 4th day after the gala, my lawyer forwarded me a cease and desist from Caleb's legal team. It accused me of defamation with malicious intent, privacy violations, and my favorite, emotional sabotage. They were trying to intimidate me back into silence. Cute. I posted a screenshot of the letter, redacted, of course, to my Instagram story with a simple caption, "Funny how the truth always feels like an attack to the guilty." It went viral within an hour. The comments rolled in fast. Queen energy crown, they ruined her and thought she wouldn't come back. Wrong. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Meanwhile, Mia disappeared from social media entirely. She deleted everything: the curated influencer aesthetic, the smug couple posts, even her last YouTube vlog titled "Manifesting Our Next Chapter." Sources claimed she fled to her sister's house in Vermont and was in therapy. Caleb, on the other hand, tried to fight the narrative. He went on a podcast, tried to frame himself as a victim of cancel culture and heartbreak. But the internet wasn't having it. Comments like "you weren't heartbroken, bro, you were horny and greedy" flooded the replies. The footage of his betrayal had too many receipts, too much weight. When Forbes ran an op-ed titled "The Fall of the Golden Boy," the damage was sealed. Even the Carter matriarch, who had always treated me like a designer handbag she regretted buying, issued a very public, very strained apology. "We deeply regret how Natalie Sinclair was treated," she read from a paper statement. "She was not only wrongly accused but acted with integrity and bravery during difficult times. We wish her well." It was the kind of forced grace only billionaires could fake, but none of this mattered more than what came next. You see, what Caleb and Mia never knew, what nobody knew, was that I hadn't just come to expose them, had come to build something new from the ashes. 2 weeks later, I launched my own media consultancy, one focused on reputation recovery, transparency audits, and whistleblower protection for women in elite industries. The response? Overwhelming. Clients poured in. Women who had been silenced. Executives who wanted to clean house. Even journalists who had once doubted me wanted interviews and insights. I wasn't just healing from my betrayal, I was profiting from it, and best of all, every penny I earned, every hand I shook, every headline that printed my name, it all came from the same people who had once tried to bury me. That was my real revenge, not the scandal, not the destruction, but the fact that I rose, publicly, proudly, and without a single apology. It had been 2 months since the Christmas gala, 2 months since the night I walked into a room built to humiliate me and walked out having detonated the Carter's empire from the inside, and those weeks, everything changed. My face was on magazine covers. My firm, Sinclair Strategies, had landed 3 high-profile clients. I was featured in an exposé about women reclaiming their power in elite circles, and I had been offered a speaking slot at an international women's leadership summit. In London, people called it a comeback, but it wasn't. You can't come back to a place you never truly belonged. This was a breakthrough, and that's when the email came. It was short. Simple. Just 2 lines. "I need to see you. One last time. Please. See." I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. A week later, I found myself standing outside a discreet cafe on the Upper East Side, private, quiet, the kind of place Caleb always picked. When he needed control, I didn't come to forgive, I came to finish. He was already seated when I walked in. He looked older. Not just physically, something in his posture, his energy. The arrogance was cracked, the mask half fallen. No entourage. No smug smile. Just him, alone. "Natalie," he said, standing as if habit still had control over him. "You came." "I did," I said, sitting down across from him. "This better be good." He exhaled, nervously, as if he were searching for the right version of himself to present. "I wanted to say sorry," he said. "Truly. For everything." I raised an eyebrow. "You'll have to be more specific." He looked down at the table. "For betraying you. For turning our friends against you. For what I did to your brother." I don't even know who I was back then. "You were a man who didn't like losing," I said. "Especially to a woman who knew your secrets." He flinched, but didn't argue. There was a long silence between us. Outside, people walked by. In coats and scarves, their lives completely untouched by the storm we had lived through. "Finally," he said, "everything's gone. My father's being investigated. My trust is frozen. My mother's stopped speaking to me. And Mia, well. You. No." I nodded once. "She sold you out the moment the scandal touched her image." "Can't say I'm surprised." He looked at me with something that resembled real regret. "You know, there was a time when I thought I loved you." "You didn't," I said, calmly. "You loved control. You loved being the one who saved me from the world, not the one I'd ever let defeat it." He swallowed hard. "So there's no chance?" Not even as friends? I laughed. Not cruelly. Just softly, like the sound of a door gently closing. Friends don't use blackmail. Or cheat. Or drag each other through the mud to protect their own name. No, Caleb. We were never friends. He looked like he wanted to cry, but I didn't flinch. I had cried too many times for this man. He didn't get that from me anymore. He reached into his coat and pulled out something small, a black velvet box. I bought this the day before I cheated, he said quietly. It was supposed to be your engagement ring. I tilted my head. And yet you chose Mia. I didn't choose her, he said. I chose ego. Status. And I lost everything. I didn't touch the box. You didn't lose everything, I said, rising from the table. You just lost me. He looked up at me, eyes wide, desperate for something I'd already reclaimed. I don't hate you, Caleb, I said. You taught me everything I never want in a partner. And for that, I'm grateful. I walked away, and this time, I didn't look back. 1 month later, I stood on the stage at the Women's Summit in London, facing a sea of cameras and eyes filled with curiosity, reverence, and awe. Behind me, on the screen, were the words, reclaiming the narrative, how betrayal became my greatest power. I told my story, not as a victim, not even as a survivor, but as a strategist, a woman who turned exposure into elevation, silence into power, and heartbreak into a weapon of reinvention. The crowd gave a standing ovation, and that night, as I sat in my hotel suite overlooking the Thames, I thought about that girl from a year ago, the one who walked into a Christmas dinner thinking she was about to be destroyed. She didn't die that night, she was reborn.